On a frigid February day, the warmth of the Bridgewater community melted the snow that had fallen just hours ago.
The feelings we experienced of grief and sadness, of loneliness and loss, were so profound and felt so deeply because our college's greatest strength, what we now know to be our most distinctive feature, is the closeness and connection we feel for each other.
Closeness and connection ran deep at the remembrance ceremony held to honor the lives of police officer John Painter and campus safety officer J.J. Jefferson, who were killed in an on-campus shooting 1 year ago. The crowd filled with Bridgewater staff and students, the officers' family members, and community members alike, who were all impacted by the shooting.
We share a common bond of hope and a love for each other that will not relent.
Behind the speakers is the site of broken ground where construction is beginning for a memorial. The design will symbolize the connection that the Bridgewater community continues to feel.
Steel piers growing closer and taller in a graceful arcing wall is based on the concept of individuals coming together.
Celebrating the commemoration, people gathered to grieve, remembering the dent that was left when John and JJ passed.
I'm grateful to have counted those men as colleagues and friends and family.
As deep as our loss was, the loss suffered by the families of John and JJ has been deeper, their grief and anguish more profound. They are a part of our family, and we are walking with them still.
Alongside the Bridgewater community, the officers' families are walking with each other. Jacob Painter, the nephew of Officer John Painter, says he has built a connection with J.J. Jefferson's loved ones over the past year.
They're pretty much family now. They know that. Because I can promise you now, if Uncle John was best friends with J.J., I know he was one hell of a guy.
He reflected on the value of his loss and played the song that he wrote for his uncle's funeral, a song he says is hard for him to hear today.
For it to be a year and still have the amount of people that I've had reach out, and it shows how the community that we live in, like everybody really does, actually, everybody cares about everybody.
This support has spread online. On the anniversary, many Bridgewater students spoke out about their experience of the shooting, including Giovanni Artelin, who had a direct view.
I kind of got up to peek my head out of the window, and that's when I saw everything, and it was terrifying. And some of those kids were in my class with me, and didn't really speak to them. And then after that, we stay in touch.
Bridgewater junior Karis David also spoke from a student perspective at the remembrance event. Despite the pain that the community was feeling, she says when she went outside on the evening of February 1st, 2022, there was a vibrant sunset.
Time slowed down and we stood there taking it all in. I remember turning to one of my close friends in that moment out on the campus mall, looking around, looking at the sky, memorizing the faces of my friends, and thinking this is a beautiful moment. How can there be such beauty in a moment that also feels so tainted with sadness and shock? We need the sunshine, but we also need the rain, the sunsets, and the sunrises.
Reporting for Breeze TV from Bridgewater College, I'm Sam Game. On Governor Glenn Youngkin's statewide bus tour, there's one message he wants Virginians to take home with them.
Get out and vote.
Youngkin rolled out his Secure Your Vote Virginia program in July, encouraging Virginia Republicans to vote early in the upcoming election. The program's website has access to resources for early voting throughout the state. Now he's taking his message on tour.
We're going to march to November 7th in victory.
Last Saturday, Youngkin stopped by Middleburg, joined by city and state Republicans.
Folks, you hear all the time that elections matter, and some people say, oh, this is life and death election. Folks, the stakes couldn't be higher.
Youngkin has outwardly supported early voting efforts since his campaign for governor. In 2021, he held rallies near polling locations and encouraged supporters to go to the polls after, rounding up over 100 to walk to the polls at one rally in Rockingham County. New statistics show that Republican early votes have increased by 8% since 2021.
The entire nation is watching us again. Why? Because they need hope. They're looking for hope that, in fact, a state that was lost can be found.
9 days after the launch of Secure Your Vote, Virginia Democrats announced their own early voting campaign, the Majority Project.
The whole purpose of this is to have more people engaged, have people engaged and able to vote without having to jump through a whole bunch of hoops on their Election Day.
Jane Doherty, vice chair of precinct operation at the Harrisonburg Democratic Committee and campaign manager for Kathy Beery, says she's glad absentee voting is more accessible now.
My dad was a retired Air Force officer, disabled. My mother was his primary caregiver, and every single year I used to have to get his doctor to sign a permission slip for her to vote absentee. So that was very frustrating for our family. And now there's no questions asked. If you can't come to the polls, you vote absentee.
With early voting ending in less than a week, Youngkin's message to vote early crosses party lines.
We're very glad that the Republican Party is sharing this message to go get out and vote.
Early voting ends November 4th. Absentee ballots must be postmarked on or before Election Day. Reporting for Breeze TV, I'm Sam Game.
I think I've blocked out not only the bad memories, but some of the good too. I know when I was younger, I wanted to be submissive because I had my eye on the man I ended up marrying. And I knew if I wanted to fit in his family, I was going to have to be obedient and do all the things. And I really set out with good intentions to be that person. And I was for a while, but I don't think we realized how set apart we were from the real world. We knew to a point that it was very different, but you don't realize how different because that's really all you know. You see what everybody else is doing, but you think they're wrong, and so you kind of cleave to what you were taught, and you just think that that's the only way. So I don't know, the older I got, the more I realized that, you know, this is a man's world. They don't value women, and something just felt off. Internally, I think I was fighting and rebelling against some of it all along. I just didn't recognize that's what I was feeling. So I started digging in.
The more that we learn about bees, the more that we become fascinated with the things that they do just besides pollination. So most people don't realize that in about mid-February in this part of the Shenandoah Valley, the queens will start laying eggs for spring. So it can be 10 degrees outside, and they already have the cues that with increasing daylight that spring is about to burst out. And so to get ready for that pollen and that nectar flow, she will start laying eggs, and they will raise that temperature to make the population strong enough for the spring honey flow. So spring starts early in a bee colony. Bees need people's help, right? So if you don't want to keep bees, plant flowers. If you see bees that where they're not supposed to be, don't destroy them. Do not spray them with a pesticide. Call someone like me or others through the Shenandoah Valley Beekeepers Association, and they will rescue them. They'll move them and put them in a more appropriate place.